In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon His last and beloved Messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon you all. The title of this video is, How does Satan make a person ignorant? Now, as an introduction to this video, if we ponder upon verse number 12 of chapter 7 of the Quran, which is the last revelation of Allah God to people, the translation of the verse is the following. Allah God said, "What prevented you that you did not prostrate when I commanded you?" Satan said, "I am better than him. You created me from fire, and him you created from clay." In this Quranic verse, Allah God Almighty is informing us what transpired, what happened when Allah created Adam, peace be upon him, and He commanded the angels to prostrate to Adam. Now Allah informs us that Satan, he disobeyed Allah God Almighty, and he refused to prostrate to Adam, peace be upon him. And the response of Satan was that he thought that he was better than Adam, that he was created from fire and Adam was created from clay. So what this tells us, among so many other things, that Satan, he knows so much about humans, because he said that he knows that Adam was created from clay, from soil material. So this again tells us that Satan knows so much about you, meaning that he knows your weaknesses, he knows your strong points, he knows how to affect you. And also, if we ponder upon verse number 1 of chapter 96 of the Quran, which states, "Read in the name of your Lord who created." This is the first verse to be revealed in the Quran, where Allah God Almighty is ordering us here to read, to seek knowledge. So we can learn that the single most important characteristic that of a human in the sight of Allah God Almighty, your ability to gain knowledge. Allah honored humans, and the single most important quality for this honor is that your ability to gain knowledge. And in the Quran, Allah tells us that He taught Adam, peace upon him, all the names. So your ability to have knowledge, to gain knowledge. And Satan knows this, and Satan knows the importance of knowledge, and that knowledge elevates you, and you become in a state that Allah wants for a human to be in that dignified, uplifted state of a person, status. So what happens that Satan wants you to live in ignorance about Allah God Almighty, about the revelations of Allah to people, about the Quran, about Islam, and in general to be ignorant about matters that help you in your life, that benefit you in your life. So Satan wants a person to be in complete ignorance. Why? Because when a person is ignorant, his inclination to do crime increases. There is no real kind of deterrent. When a person is ignorant, he's unaware that this is right, this is wrong, this will happen to me if I do this. So when ignorance increases, the crime rate increases, adultery, all of kind of bad things that destroy a society increases with ignorance, with the rise in ignorance among people. So Satan, as an enemy, wants you to be ignorant, to destroy society and destroy you by committing acts that you think they are good, but actually these acts, they will bring you pain and despair in this life and the hereafter. So the question now, how does Satan make you ignorant? Now, to answer this question, we need to understand first, how does Satan affect people? How does Satan affect each and every one of us? Now, I dealt with this question in so many of my videos. I'll just give here a quick summary, because it's a very important subject, very important topic. How does Satan affect each and every one of us? Now, the summary can be found by pondering upon two verses of the Quran. The first verse, as you can see on the screen, is verse number 4 of chapter 114 of the Quran, which states, "From the evil of the whisperer who hides." Here Allah Almighty tells us that Satan, he whispers to each and every one of us, meaning he talks to you. but at the same time he hides from you. So Allah is informing us, is telling us that Satan whispers to each and every one of us, but at the same time he hides from you, meaning that he doesn't want you to feel his presence. And how can Satan accomplish this? Now, we know that each and every one of us has a voice of oneself. And that's the voice you speak with, and the same voice you hear in your head when you are thinking quietly to yourself. And that voice, as you can see on the screen, has a certain frequency, style, the languages you know, has certain characteristics. So what your companion devil, what Satan does, that he matches his voice with regards to tone, frequency, the languages you know, to the voice you hear in your head. And he talks to you, you hear ideas, the ideas pop up in your head, just appear in your head. And you think that yourself is telling you this, or you are thinking with yourself with these ideas, but actually they are from your companion devil. Once again, the way that Satan affects each and every one of us, and there is no one immune from this, that he matches his voice with the one you think in your mind. With regards, you know English, he will speak to you in English. You know Portuguese, you know Chinese, you know Japanese, you know Arabic. He matches his voice with all aspects to your own voice. And you're sitting or traveling, and you just experience a thought, just pops up in your head out of nowhere. And you think that yourself is telling you this, but actually it's companion devil. So that is the way Satan affects each and every one of us. Now, the other verse that gives another additional understanding on how does Satan affect us can be found in the Quran in chapter 113, verse 4, which states, "And from the evil of the blowers in the knots." And from the evil of the blowers in the knots. Also, Allah tells us that Satan affects us by blowing in the knots. What are these knots that Satan blows into? And now, if we ponder upon how Allah created our body, as Allah orders us to do in the Quran, and we look at the human brain, we see that the brain is composed of neurons assembled together in like lobes, or we can say like knots, like strings weaved together to form kind of like a cotton ball, like strings weaved together to create an object. So as you can see, they are like neural knots. So going back to the verse in the Quran that Satan blows in the knots, meaning that Satan, when he whispers to you, he directs the vibrations from his sound to the knots in your brain. Now, how can you understand this? Now, these neural knots or lobes in the brain, they are responsible for various functions. And among these functions, the producing feelings, engendering feelings. And so how is a feeling produced? Suppose that you experience or you hear a good news. Then what happens is that these knots in the brain, these neurons, they are stimulated and they produce chemicals. And these chemicals, they cause the muscles in your body to relax. So you have a feeling of happiness. On the other hand, if you experience a thought that gives you sadness, then these lobes are stimulated and they produce chemicals that cause tightness in the chest, a feeling of anxiety, fear, and sadness. So now we understand how these neurons in the brain, they produce the various feelings. So what happens is that, for example, you are leaving your house in the morning, you experience a thought in your mind as if yourself is telling you this. This pops up in your mind, and now we know the source, Satan, telling you that you forgot to close the front door. And as a result, you will be robbed and calamities will befall you, as if you are thinking to yourself. Now, at the same time, Satan directs the vibration of his sound to his voice, to these neural knots, and it produces a tightness in the chest, a feeling of anxiety. So Satan produces this feeling to make you believe these lies, to make you more convinced that you might probably forget to close the front door. So we see that Satan uses this kind of engendered feelings, these produced feelings, to put more weight on the thought he just whispered to you with. Now, having understood this, we come to the question: how does Satan make you ignorant? Now, the first thing that he does, one of the things that he does, that he puts sexual thoughts and imaginations in your mind. Now, if you ponder upon, to understand this, if you ponder upon verse number verses 168 169 of chapter 2 of the Quran, which states, O people, eat of that which is lawful and good on the earth, and follow not the footsteps of Satan. Verily, he is to you an open enemy. He commands you what is harmful, sinful, and say about Allah what you have knowledge of. So here Allah the Almighty is teaching us that Satan, he whispers to you ideas of harm, to hate yourself and others, ideas of lust and perverted sexual ideas, and to say about Allah what you have knowledge of. Now if you focus here on the ideas of lust, so what happens is that in your day, Satan whispers to you with a voice match the one you think with, in your mind, telling you sexual thoughts, putting you in sexual scenarios and imaginations. You are doing this, you are saying this, and there is something that's responding to you. You are saying something, and you just like another person, you experience the response. And that other person, that other thing is Satan. Now we understood after hearing what I'm saying that this other kind of party, this other kind of person, or this thing, which is Satan. So a person experiences kind of sexual thoughts, and Satan, by putting these sexual scenarios and sexual thoughts, he wants to drive you away from the purity of the message of Allah the Almighty. He wants to occupy your brain by pointless thoughts and just waste hours after hours in pointless acts. And of course, when he's whispering these sexual thoughts, he blows in the knots in the brain to give you a feeling of happiness, relaxation, sexual arousal, to make you more inclined to think about these thoughts. And he's trying to make you ignorant about what really matters in life. A lot of people, they are addicted to these kind of perverted sexual acts. This is the result of Satan. And what happens is that the person, as I said, becomes ignorant about what really matters in his life. Another way that Satan makes a person ignorant, that he puts him in imaginations and daydreaming. Now, if we ponder upon verse number 64 of chapter 17 of the Quran, which states, and before them gradually those whom you can among them with your voice, and with your voice, make a source of them with your imaginations and your induced feelings, mutually share with them wealth and children, and make promises to them, but Satan promises them nothing but deceit. So here Allah is telling us that we can learn from the verse that another way of effective Satan on us, that he puts you in kind of imaginations. For example, in your day, let me give an example. You had a conversation with a colleague in the morning. Now, in the evening, Satan, he starts telling you the conversation once again, and he's telling you, like, if you respond this will happen. He's putting you like in conversation in your mind, as if you are saying something, you're thinking about something, and something is responding to you. So this is, people sometimes call it daydreaming. It's not daydreaming. It's Satan whispering to a person with these thoughts, putting him in a cycle. And what happens is that hours and after hours pass by, and a person, he's wasting his time, wasting his effort, wasting his concentration in pointless endeavors. It's something that's just waste his time away. That's it. And Satan, whatever thing that brings you pain and despair, you will find Satan there. Now, another way that Satan makes a person ignorant, forgetfulness. Now, if you ponder upon verse number 63 of chapter 18 of the Quran, which states, he said, do you remember when we betook ourselves to the rock? I indeed forgot the fish. None but Satan made me forget to remember it. It took its course in the sea in a strange way. Now, in this verse, Allah is telling us what happened between Moses, Prophet Moses, between him, and his companion on the journey. Now, what happened that his companion forgot the fish, their lunch, and what his companion said that Satan made me to forget it. So, Satan caused a person to be forgetful. How can we understand this? What happens is that, as I said, by Satan engaging you in conversation in your mind, by putting these kind of sexual scenarios. You are concentrating on other pointless aspects of these thoughts, but you are forgetting what's really important in your life. For example, suppose that you need, when you leave your house in the morning to go to work, you need to pick up something from a certain place. Now, Satan starts telling you, maybe you forget the door, this will happen to you in your office. He started putting you all these pointless kind of thoughts in your mind, so you forget what you need to do. You forget the important things in your life. So this is how Satan makes you forgetful and ignorant about so many aspects. Another way that Satan produces fear and makes you to focus on a one topic. Now, how to understand this? If we ponder upon verse number 268 of chapter 2 of the Quran, which states, Satan threatens you with poverty and orders you to commit sinful acts, whereas Allah God promises you forgiveness from Himself and bounty, and Allah God is all sufficient for His creatures' need, all knower. So here Allah God Almighty is telling us that Satan threatens you with poverty. What does this mean? Now, Satan, he whispers you with a voice match the one you think with in your mind, telling you that you will become poor, calamities will befall you, you will be in a horrible state. So he threatens you with poverty. Now, one of the reasons that Satan does this, he makes a person to concentrate so much on money, how to gain money, either lawfully or unlawfully, all of his life thinking about money. And focusing on this topic so much, he becomes ignorant about so many other things. The only thing he knows how to get money, how to spend money. He likes shopping. He likes so and so. So all of his kind of energy and time is spent on this one aspect. And of course, in that state, the person is ignorant about Allah God Almighty, Islam, the Quran, about what really matters in life, knowing searching for his purpose in life, why Allah created him, which revelation and which book, religious book on the earth is the correct one, which one is pure. All of these questions, Satan tries to blind a person from thinking about these questions by making him focus on pointless thoughts. Another way that Satan makes a person ignorant, trying to distort religious concepts and driving people away from the Quran. Now, if you ponder upon verse number 169 of chapter 2 of the Quran, which states, He, i.e. Satan, commands you what is harmful, sinful, and say about Allah God what you have no knowledge of. So here, Allah is telling us that Satan whispers to a person with ideas of harm, to hurt himself and others, ideas of lust, and perverse sexual ideas, and to say about Allah what you have no knowledge of. So, for example, when Satan affected women in this regard, he comes to a woman telling her, look, the Quran allows a man to marry more than one wife. The Quran allows a man to beat a woman. All of these kind of distorted ideas about religion, about the Quran. So Satan tries to distort and to give lies about the Quran, about Allah, about the Prophet Muhammad, and Satan accomplishes this by matching his voice, the one you think in your mind. You think within your mind. So what Satan wants, he wants to drive people away from the Quran. And he wants to make a person ignorant about the Quran, because Satan knows that salvation is found in the Quran. The true understanding for everything is found in the Quran. Your happiness is by following the Quran. Satan knows this. So he will try so many things to drive you away from the Quran. Sexual thoughts, distorted images, distorted thoughts about Islam. He will try everything. So I hope, brothers and sisters, now you realize the amount of attack of Satan on you. Now, what is the way out of this? It's very straightforward. Now, once you know that Satan comes to you with a voice match, the one I think with, and he produces these feelings to strengthen the thought he just whispered to me with, the way is very simple. That now you know your enemy and how he attacks you. Every time you experience a thought from Satan, you seek refuge with Allah, meaning that you remember this guidance. And you remember that these thoughts is from an enemy of mine who wants to waste my time, my energy, and he wants pain and despair for me in this life and hereafter. That what you should do, you should not believe these thoughts, don't give it any attention, and don't carry them out. You just ignore these thoughts. He's telling you to think about sexual acts. You don't think about these acts. You just stop thinking about them. Don't start responding and going into a loop and you think that yourself is telling you this, but actually it's Satan. Stop talking to him. Stop giving him any attention. That's basically the way. It's not easy to do at first, but after a while you keep doing it, you keep ignoring these thoughts and not carrying them out, nor thinking about them. It becomes easier. And the more you fight Satan, the more you ignore him, the more time you have to focus on what really matters. Knowledge about Allah God Almighty, about the Quran, how to strive to make the way of the Creator supreme. Is the book I'm following, like for example the Christians, is the Bible correct, incorrect? What's my purpose in life? So all of this, when you have more time and more energy, you can invest them in something that will bring you happiness in this life and the hereafter. And to know more details about this topic, please visit my website at www.quran-miracle.com, and you can email me at zquran@yahoo.com, and may the peace and mercy of Allah be upon you all.